Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
The atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand.
It is our basic human right to be fuck up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Oh, cause very charges.
Hey, welcome to part 2 of Fascist propaganda. In part 1, we go over just what fascism is, what it wants, and how it's re-risen in the Western world. Big preamble, but you need to explain complex topics like this properly. So in part 2, we're going to get more into the propaganda of modern-day fascists. And to hit that off, before we get into the main episode, here's a prime example of a fascist named Nick Fuentes, who has a long history of supporting white nationalist and fascist ideas, using an analogy to propagate the myth of the Holocaust being a hoax. In place of Jewish people and victims of the Holocaust, he uses cookies. So this is the tactics that are employed in order to communicate publicly about private conspiracy theories.
If I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens, working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. Certainly, oh, no. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. The math doesn't quite seem to add up there. I don't think you'd result in 6 million. Maybe 200 to 300,000 cookies. And I think the Red Cookie Association said something like that, probably 200 to 300,000 cookies baked, probably. And in addition, in this hypothetical, I imagine that if you took aerial photographs over the kitchens, you would need to see certain smokestacks to release the smoke from baking the cookies, and the smokestacks would project certain shadows, but I guess they're not visible in the aerial photographs taken over the kitchens. Moreover, if you look at the soil texture, it's really not deep enough for mass cookie storage underground. And so there's a lot of things. In the cookie kitchen, they say that the ovens are wooden and they have windows on them and they're not totally secure. And the ovens that they use, they actually did sort of an ad hoc use of that particular kind of oven, even though they made a perfectly good design for ovens for a different purpose, for delousing. I mean, for something else. So none of it really adds up. I don't know. It just kind of doesn't really make sense, this crazy cookie analogy.
To be clear, there is a long and thoroughly documented history of the fact of the Holocaust taking place. What he mentioned is lies. Fascists always lie because they know they have to play defense on their bullshit bigoted ideology. That's the reality. But just as an example of how they employ those tactics to try and convince people to their side. Anyways, enjoy the rest of part 2. So let's go into fascist propaganda. So why target young people? 59% of young people get their news exclusively from social media, from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, places where thought leaders can sit down and have a space to send their thoughts out. Because a lot of young people, they don't read, this is bound out in the statistics. Like 31% read from online news outlets, but 59% exclusively get it from social media. And they're subject to the interpretations of anybody they run into, whoever's charismatic enough to get their attention.
So, as I'm pretty sure the only Gen Xer in this room.
I was born in 1987.
Not Gen Xer. I mean
Gen
Zer. Not Gen Xer. You're a Gen X.
No, I'm a millennial.
You're a
We're
millennial.
all millennials here, except for you.
As the only non-millennial, as the only Gen Zer here in this room, I do get my all my news from social media.
That's where I get my news.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, that's the trend. And
I'm the only young person apparently then.
Yeah. So that's why it's good to target young people, because they get their news exclusively from one source, and they usually don't check their sources afterwards. That's just how the world works these days. And sometimes they find good sources, sometimes they find bad sources. One of the ways the fascists push propaganda is through memes. I know that sounds fucking ridiculous.
Can I has a cheeseburger?
Please?
Please?
Please, cheeseburger, please. It sounds insane on its face to say Nazis are spreading propaganda through memes, but that's sort of the point. You want it to sound absurd when you talk about it, because that's a protective element to these fascist propaganda. Like, if you go up to somebody and say, hey, I think this meme creator is peppering in like dog whistles to like Nazism, somebody's gonna be like, yeah, nobody's using memes to do that. It sounds ridiculous on its face.
I was just joking, guys. It was just a joke. Why you don't have to be so serious. Don't be such a social justice warrior.
Well, it's like going to Uncle Joe's Facebook page and you see a meme about like shooting the Muslims because they're animals and we don't want them coming into Canada. It's like
that's not even a dog whistle.
Uncle Joe, that's fucked up.
It's just shouting and like nasty Nazi.
That's just like mask off. Just like, hey, here's who I am.
Well, and it's so easy to hide behind a computer screen, and when people call you out, you can get mad at them when you would never do that in real life.
People just get so offended these days so easily.
Everybody wants to play Victim Olympics and
and it's that like defensive thing that they suddenly do.
You're just being a special snowflake. Like you want special rights.
And then of course they like turn around like 30 seconds later and they're like, why won't the football man stand up?
Yeah, fucking Dave fuckface Rubin put out a video where he's just like, okay, footballers, I just want to sit down and watch some football, so it'd be real nice if you ran up and down the field and like, come on, guy, just run up and down the field and kick that ball around for a while. I want to hear about your problems, guy. Just go up and down the field. Like, fuck off, Dave Rubin. Like, you're so fucking okay. I'm gonna go.
We're getting comfortable.
Sounds like we can just like put that clip in there.
Oh God, who just got into his battle post?
I will put that. It's a short, because it's Dave Rubin. He doesn't put any effort or thought into anything. So he put a little like clip on Thanksgiving about like, these guys kneeling on the field is really ruining my experience. You have to put politics in everything.
Football season is upon us, and apparently that means it's time to talk politics. I really wish that we could separate sports and politics, or pretty much everything in politics, but somehow politics has infected every facet of American life. Inserting politics into virtually everything we consume strikes me as a really bad sign as to what direction this country is heading. This isn't to deny the feelings of the players who take the knee, but it is to acknowledge why people watch sports in the first place. People turn to sports, video games, and other entertainment to escape politics and the cold, hard realities of life. Now it seems that everywhere you turn, politics has reared its ugly head. If you don't take a side and scream about it, or at least tweet about it, then you'll be tossed in as racist or as anti-American, depending on who's leveling the charge. When our momentary escapes from reality, like sports, are taken away from us in exchange for more political bickering, we should all take a step back and assess what's really going on here.
For the boomers out there, a meme is a picture or pictures with text over them, and the text can be switched out to say different things, and that's even a limited definition of what a meme is. A meme is just like, it's a very vague concept, but it's basically like simple internet comic art type things.
Can we add in the original meaning of the word meme?
Oh,
Because meme is a much older word than people think. People think, oh, meme, that's a new thing. Meme.
Oh, that was from like Shakespeare.
No, not quite that old, but
What that obey?
I believe 1974, and of course people can at me about that, but I think it was a 70s thing, and meme was it's just a unit of information transferred from a person to another person, and that's all a meme is.
It literally means information transfer. Yeah, that's what I remind people that all the time. I've had people arguing. I've been in rooms where people are arguing about what constitutes a meme. Is like, does the text have to be over top of the picture, whatever, and stuff like that. I was like, well, a meme literally means this, but also words changed meanings too. So
memings.
So one of the memes that's been co-opted is Pepe the Frog. Actually, somebody in the chat already mentioned it. Yeah. And basically, like, this is what the right does. And again, they want it to sound absurd, because if it sounds absurd, people can argue about it. Like, you were all on social media, or maybe most of you were on social media at the time that this went live. There were so many people being like, oh, it's just a frog. It's just a cartoon frog. How can it be a fascist symbol? It's a fascist symbol because thousands of fascists and Nazis online started using it in their memes and started copy-pasting that frog until it became a symbol for them. That's what they do. They associate something with them enough that it becomes a dog whistle, so that when people see it outside of context, those that are in the know, the other fascists and Nazis in the audience, go, hey, I know that guy. I know what he's really saying.
Well, and with that like moon guy, got the moon face. I think it was a McDonald's ad or something.
I just got like the reference of calling something a dog whistle because like humans can't hear dog whistles, but only dogs can, and I just clued into this.
Okay,
in this example, the dog is a Nazi and the whistle is propaganda. Yeah, and again, another one that was used is Donald Trump said low energy.
Yeah.
And that became a huge thing in fascist memes because they were talking anybody who was progressive, anybody who was pro-trans rights, anybody who was like pro against the values of fascists, they got called low energy in these memes. And it's just a casual, funny, edgy way to propagate their message. Because each of these memes, when you break them down to their core message, say things. They're saying races aren't equal. They're saying that Jews control too much. They're saying that straight white people are oppressed. They're saying that traditional roles in society, traditional gender roles in society are strong and should be upheld. Each of these memes has a core message inside of it behind the humor, and they can use that to slowly convince people over. Another one is deplorables. Hillary Clinton, during a campaign speech, referred to Trump's voters as deplorables, and the fascists have been using it in their memes and comics ever since as a badge of honor. Like, yes, we are the deplorables, and we're damn proud of it. Like, if we call ourselves deplorables, then it doesn't hurt. Like, that whole thing. And it's become a word that's been associated with far-right and fascism again. It's another dog whistle that's been co-opted.
Well, it's a little ridiculous. They're trying to do what they did with the word queer, like LGBT people claiming the word queer for themselves again. Like, they're trying to take deplorable as if it's something to be proud of, but it's not.
Oh, yeah. And actually, Stephen Skytower in the Patreon chat, if you want to be a part of the show and be able to participate in the chat as this is happening, he just posted Honkler, which is Pepe the Frog with a clown wig and clown makeup on it. And again, it's a silly little cartoon image. Anybody outside of the context would be like, what do you mean this is a fascist symbol? What the fuck are you talking about? Mm-hmm. But Honkler originated when the trans bathroom bill was highly active. And basically they were saying that whenever they posted this picture, it was a secret message that meant they're letting anybody who they want go into any bathroom who they want. So the whole world is turning into a clown world. Like, that's the message behind that. And when it's used in fascist memes, that's the message behind it. Anytime that progressive values or pro-trans rights or like pro-racial rights, anything like that, is pushed forward, they use Honkler to say, like, if that's moving forward, then this whole world's a clown world, because only clowns would live in a world where everybody's equal and fair and all that.
I mean, to be honest, I'd rather be a clown living in a fairly progressive, loving world than, you know, in a fascist world. So paint me up, bitches.
It's like the carnival, whoop whoop.
Yeah.
People, the dark carnival right here.
Yeah.
And much motherfucking wicked clown love, yo.
It's where all the anarchists are ending up in the carnival.
Yeah,
Do you have
run
any
away
Faygo around?
from
Just
home
curious.
to join the circus. You know?
I don't have Faygo, but I have a empty Faygo bottle from an ICP concert. Does that count? No. Okay.
I get it. I get it.
Well, if I like cheap diet, like fucking no name.
I hear it's just terrible anyway.
It's terrible. Like go
Does
to
the
like
cat
the
like-
no name brand cola at the superstore. Just get some of that. It tastes just the
Does
same.
the cat like cat treats?
The cat hates everybody and everything.
So where do these memes come from? They come from places like 8chan, 4chan, the Donald, R-Pole, and a bunch of sites on the dark web. Call back to Richard's dark web episode. And when you read these message boards, they come off like a political like strategy office. Like they talk about adjusting the memes and adjusting the language and presenting it in different ways to improve the message. Like they're very strategic about how they want this to propagate. Like, of course, a big part of the movement is just edgy fuckhead people like goofing around because they think it's like a cool thing to do to be like against trans rights. But there are literal white supremacists and white nationalists and Nazis that are strategically planning how do we win the hearts and minds of America. Because in all the fascist takeovers, the first step is usually gaining public favor temporarily, because then you can overthrow the existing government. And you have to have a good amount of political opinion before they do that. These Nazis are using this political time to start building hearts and minds, start getting political opinion in their favor. They're trying to recruit people into their patterns of thought.
And a lot of times they hardly know what they stand for other than, you know, black equals bad, Jewish equals bad. They don't understand the entirety of the propaganda that is going into their ideology.
Yeah.
I just want to watch that video of Richard Spencer getting like plugged like 5-6 times, just over and over and over again on like loop. Can we like post that shit? We should just post that. Why not?
Post what?
The video of Richard Spencer getting clocked at the inauguration.
Oh yeah.
Neo-Nazis don't love me. They kind of hate me, actually.
Following the KKK, neo-Nazi.
Those people don't like me,
Are you
to be
like
honest.
the hipster version of the neo-Nazi movement?
It's Pepe's become kind of a symbol.
And back to memes, I feel like they've aged in reverse, like they've gotten younger is for their target audience. Like they started with like adults motivational posters and more like sex memes, you know, like
demotivational
ha ha ha, there's a penis here, you know. And then now it's, you know, 7-year-olds are looking at memes and they're like, haha, this is funny. I don't get it, but it's funny. And they're just really popular among younger groups. So the earlier you can indoctrinate your children, the easier you can indoctrinate them further into your agenda.
So another space that fascists use to push their message is in online comics. A great example of this is the comic artist Stone Toss. Now, when you objectively look at Stone Toss's comics, like they're drawn simply, they're easily understood, they're kind of pithy, they're very straight to the point. Like if you were into the type of humor that he's into, it would be effective because it's an effective little well done funny comic. But the problem is that he posts regular funny comics right next to like barely dog whistle like propaganda.
There we go, found it. One of the not shitty parts of Reddit is our Antifa Stone Toss. And they basically take shitty Stone Toss comics and modify them so that they are wholesome and have anti-fascist messaging behind them. And it is fantastic. And it is one of the few redeeming things of Reddit, I guess.
Yeah.
There's also a really good succulent Reddit. Like the plants.
You've never been on rough Roman memes, have you?
No, I see, and that's the other issue is like we need to like take back all the like Norse imagery,
Oh, absolutely,
the medieval imagery, and all that other bullshit that they've been like co-opting for their fucking purpose. We need to take that shit back. They already ruined the swastika once before. We need to fucking say no, too far, guys, and just fucking crush them. Once was just too much.
Well, and even the name ISIS, like she's an Egyptian goddess.
I knew someone named Isis at one point.
I had a cat called Isis.
And this is back in high school, and I said something about her at home, and my parents were like, "That's a weird name," and I'm like, "It's an Egyptian god."
Yeah, I do want to point out though that the ISIS thing that's an unfortunatism, because ISIS being the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, the actual name of the organization in Arabic is Daesh.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly,
that's just a translation thing, and someone's like, "Oh, ISIS, that sounds good." No.
Every couple of weeks, I'll run into some
monolinguals are the worst, eh?
Yeah, fuck us. I barely speak one language.
Every couple of weeks, I'll run into some message board or some Twitter thread where, like, an ignorant person is freaking out about, like, an Indian temple that has a swastika on it. Because they're just like, what the fuck, India? What are you doing? And they don't understand that it was co-opted and stolen from them.
Educate yourself. Learn where the symbolism came from.
Or even better is, hey, look, the Nazis went back 3,000 years and put this symbol on some Mohenjo-Daran temple. It's like, you're such an idiot, but I can't help you. I'm sorry.
And that's what they do. They like to co-opt images, and they like to, as long as it propagates the message and it gets the message across, it kind of a dog whistle to anybody that sees it. So like on Stone Toss. So
I've never heard of this guy, and I was looking through the comics, and they're very cringy.
Oh yeah,
and
they're awful.
I hate them.
Oh yeah.
So
imagine if you're a troubled young man.
Like, look at this. Read that one.
The co-opting symbols. That's the reason why I will never get a symbol tattooed on me. Like, I'm never going to get the Deathly Hallows symbol tattooed on me. I mean, that's a little maybe.
That's a pentacle. I know the difference now. Anyway, so go ahead.
Yes.
They're both pentacles, actually.
That's a maybe. That's a maybe, but I just don't want to get symbols tattooed on me. Just because of that reason. I understand other people getting them, and I don't mind other people having them. It's just like, I don't want one, because I don't want like some fascist to be like, oh yeah, the Deathly Hallows symbol now means for the greater good again, but like, in Grindelwald's way, not the...
Yeah, what happens when somebody comes around? Well, I think there is a couple guys that have Pepe frogs on them, and they're like, I got this frog when it was just a funny meme before it was a dog whistle, and now I'm fucked because I have Pepe on the side of my face.
Well,
exactly. I just get like original art that's like a snake or something.
I'm just poor, so I don't get any more tattoos.
Right.
So just as an example of like what Stone Toss's comics are like, so this is a simple Stone Toss comic. On the left panel is a defiant socialist fist, like standing in solidarity, like that kind of like a palm forward, like we will not be beaten down socialist fist. In the right panel is that same fist with a pink rubber glove over it, about to enter an asshole, and the labels above it are then and now. So that's a pithy little easy to understand comic that sends a subtle message. We used to be better back then, now we're allowing homosexuals to do homosexual things. Or people with fists to enter butts. That's bad. And that's the underlying message of that comic. And it passes through. And this guy is hugely successful and has a huge following. Another one. Aliens land in the first panel from a spaceship and say, take us to your leader. In the second panel, a limousine pulls up, the president steps out and says, welcome to America. The aliens in the third panel say, haha, good one, let's go to the real leader. In the fourth panel, they're at a temple saying shalom. So it's another like easy to understand, easy to follow joke with a subtle message of the president doesn't really control things because people of Jewish descent control things. Like, that's the message that's being passed through. It's using humor to propagate these messages. Okay. Has anybody ran into any other... Like, Stone Toss is a big example of that. But like, even, like, some right-wing, like, political comics, like, get into shit like that.
There were those... I can't remember what they were called, but they were religious little comic strip books.
Chick pamphlets.
Yes, thank you. And those are kind of similar, like teaching the word of God, and don't play D&D because it's a gateway to the devil. And
oh boy, that's another episode tonight, actually.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Another one is videos. You guys have heard my opinion on Dave Rubin. I'll try and give him a bit better of a setup. Dave Rubin is, if journalism was born in the perfect form of laziness, like he's the laziest journalist out there. He'll invite anybody onto his show, and whatever opinion they say, he'll be like, oh yeah, oh that's interesting. Oh, I've never thought about it like that. It doesn't matter what they're saying. Those are the 3 words he goes with every single time. He's brought people from the far right. He's brought, like, arguable neo-Nazis on there. He's brought white supremacists on there. And every time they bring up, like, a talking point that's wacky or a talking point that's obviously, like, some propaganda being pushed forward about how this country's crazy because, like, men who think they're women can go into women's bathrooms. Like, that whole transphobic bullshit. Like, he just nods his head and go like, oh yeah, oh boy, yeah, I think so. And another one is Andy Worski. Andy Worski is more in the Zoomer generation, and he's a Twitch streamer. And he has also invented Richard Spencer and neo-Nazis on, just have casual talks with them. He sometimes pushes back a little bit, but most of the time he just lets them say whatever they want, like, let's hear this Nazi out. And because of that, the Nazi gets to practice a charismatic, rehearsed speech that's designed to co-opt people over to their side. And every time, like, Andy Worski platforms one of these guys, a few more people get radicalized to the right and start, like, thinking and going down the alt-right rabbit hole. Another one is Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan, he pushes back pretty hard sometimes, but it's almost at random intervals. Like, he'll push back about being able to send chickens in the mail. Like, he had an argument with somebody about if the U.S. postal system shut down, you could still get chickens delivered in the mail, and they argued a long time about that. But yet, when somebody says something, like, super racist or super, like, propagandy, like, on his show, sometimes he doesn't seem to push back at all. It's seemingly random, and it gives the appearance that he's a hard interviewer who won't let some things go. But since he's letting this other thing go, it seems like he's endorsing it. Like, and also he's one of the biggest podcasts out there. It's literally millions of people listen to it. And he doesn't bring neo-Nazis on. He's more selective, but he definitely brings people on that are the first step towards that. Kind of like alt-right flirting people. Another one is Ben Shapiro.
That guy.
Yeah, and you've probably seen, if you watch anything remotely anti-SJW on YouTube, even if you accidentally click on one of those videos, you'll see Ben Shapiro in the mentions. And it's usually not Ben Shapiro's own videos. Usually it's Ben Shapiro, Omega Yeats SJW Spaz, Part 17, like that shit. And like, so that means people have taken videos where, like, right or far-right talking points are put in good favor and put them all together in a big chunk and then allow that to go out there. And it's another pipeline, because try this experiment for yourself. Start watching Ben Shapiro. Start watching Andy Worski. Start watching Dave Rubin on a brand new YouTube account.
I don't want to give them clicks.
Yeah. And soon you'll be drawn into, like, mask off overt Nazi propaganda. Like, the more you click on recommended videos, the more it drives you back down in there.
If you want a non-fascist way of doing that, do the same thing but start looking at flat Earth. It's less fascist, arguably sillier.
Yeah.
Sorry, flat earthers out there.
No, we're not sorry.
I was going to say sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Teach the controversy.
Yeah.
Teach the
controversy.
Hey, I was listening to a podcast the other day called Red Handed, and they're from Britain, and they were saying controversy.
Controversy.
Oh, boy.
But they're British.
Controversy.
They probably also say aluminium, don't they?
That's a point for Leon. British people are doing it. That's
British
classy.
people are saying controversy. That's also a really good podcast, so go listen to it.
Yeah, but they don't speak English over there, so.
Once you get past these quasi people, there are overt, like, mask off Nazis that are operating on YouTube. One of them is known as Red Ice TV. Red Ice TV is a YouTube channel where they, literally argue for saving white people from genocide. Like, they think there's a genocide being cast upon white people, and this is what we must do to fight it. And they argue for ethnic states where only one race of people is allowed to live within a state.
Because the minorities, don't you know, them getting rights means we're getting pushed out.
Yeah, like human rights is like pie. You know, it's pie.
White ethno
You know, if you
states,
get your rights, there's less rights for me. You know? That's how that works.
It's like a pie. You get more rights, means I get less rights.
That's right.
And
I want pie.
The concept of nationalism is as old as humanity. We just never needed to call it by name until now. Tribalism is the root of nationalism. Humans have always been and always will be tribal, and nothing will change that. You may think you're above it, but you're not. The planet has been organized this way for thousands of years. It is how nature created us. A nation is made up of a particular tribe of people united by common ancestry, culture, and language, inhabiting a territory that is all theirs for their people to thrive and be them. They share a collective identity primarily rooted in ancestry. It's what binds them together. It isn't rooted in artificial abstract ideas on a piece of paper. It is rooted in your genetic makeup. And from these genes come the various physical and cultural expressions of humanity. And these expressions make up the world's diversity in all its forms. Our differences represent millions of years in the making. Most of us take that for granted. From tribalism came the idea of a nation state with a legal framework. They had ruling councils, boundaries, and fought to protect their territory. Borders, a common language, culture, religion, and ancestry is the foundation of nationalism. Homogeneous nations make up the nations of the world. It's how we have countries today that are made up by a specific ethnicity, a tribe. Sweden, Japan, India, Sudan. Nationalists oppose open borders and mass migration for the simple reason that if their land is overtaken by people who are not them, it ceases to be their nation, ceases to be a place for them to thrive in their unique way. Just ask American Indians.
Once again, sounds convincing, sounds charismatic. It's full of lies. Fascists always lie. They use slick language that makes these things seem cute or agreeable. Like they say, like, what's the matter about being able to live around people that you want? And what if it just so happens that I want all those people to be white?
Then
like,
you're a racist.
Yeah, like that's the argument. Like they cover their arguments. Like they use distancing language. Like they won't overtly say like we're gonna kick all brown people out of the neighborhood. They just say like we just want to live around people that we agree with and stuff like that. Which a lot of people don't pick up on the message of. But like the underlying message of that is harmful. Like the underlying message is we will exclude people that aren't in the in group.
Well, it's them invalidating the existence of others, saying you're not allowed to exist under these conditions because I don't like it, I don't agree with it.
Just some other ones. PragerU, which is pretty much like, imagine if the Hank brothers made like an alt-right YouTube channel. That's PragerU because they're very well done, but they explain far-right talking points like anti-minority stuff, like this is why we should fight against SJWs, like this is why communism is bad. They make videos like that, so if you type that into the YouTube bar, they'll have a slick little video to just watch.
Well, and there's another way where they're sort of winning that war for minds is they're PragerU. So someone will say, "Oh, I don't remember where I heard this, but it was some university posted it," which lends it some credence. Whereas generally on the left side, like we don't say, "Oh, I'm this university" because I'm just some random dude, sleeping in my basement.
Yeah. By the way, this episode is going to generate like a wonderful number of like angry boomer iTunes reviews.
I'm so excited.
We already have so many angry boomer iTunes reviews. Yes. Go and give us a 5-star review, please, because it's like right now at the top is like all angry boomer reviews.
Yeah, please rate us. Please rate us, and also please add OV Richard to your Twitter if you have not already done that.
Yeah,
he has less followers than anybody.
That's right.
I think I have over 400 now.
I think I only follow you two.
I'm sorry, I'm not like a big media influencer like you are.
I'm not sure if you've met me, but I am not a big media influencer.
Some other quick ones. The kill stream, which is a free speech.
My free speech.
Yeah, a free speech space on the internet. So it's like a Google Hangout for Nazis. So you create you create a space where you say all speech is tolerated no matter how bad, and soon a bunch of Nazis show up to start spewing their propaganda. And also, it's full of people arguing for pedophilia. It's the garbage dump of the internet. Jordan Peterson, who is Canadian,
Kermit the Frog.
he propagates anti-Marxism, and he endorses things like there's a bunch of lonely men out there that can't get laid, which is a problem. That's a societal problem that we haven't found out how to deal with. Because if you have a segment of the population that isn't fully happy, that's a breakdown in the society. Like a perfect society wouldn't have that.
Robots.
But his answer to that societal problem is, let's make it mandatory to give these men sex from the government. Like, they want the government to hire people to fuck these young men.
Have you seen government acquisitions? Are you sure you want that?
Yeah.
It's lowest bidder. It's lowest bidder.
And he also argues, like, practical advice, practical, like, make to-do lists and, like, common sense advice with, like, anti-progressive things. Like, he thinks women shouldn't wear lipstick in the workplace because the only reason women wear lipstick is because it makes the lips darker, because lips get darker when they're aroused. So women are trying to arouse men at the workplace. And, like,
those lips.
I mean,
girl.
PewDiePie. I mean, sorry, like, even if you give him a mulligan for the first time, where he hired a couple people to do like Nazi praise on their Fiverr page, where they hold up a sign that says it said "White Power" or something like that, or "Kill the Jews" or something like that. But then he got caught sharing another YouTube channel that was blatantly a Nazi dog whistle YouTube channel.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Well, that and saying the N-word a couple times. Like, first time, okay, you say this word, you slipped up, but when it's that common that you slip up more than once, that's inexcusable. Sorry.
Yeah, get
you
shit
shouldn't
together.
have it that casually in your
vocabulary.
Yeah.
YouTuber No Bullshit.
Lexicon.
Yeah, YouTuber No Bullshit, who's an anti-feminist, anti-SJW. He makes those big, like, here's why Wonder Woman is bad for America videos. Like the feminists are pushing for another female-led movie, and it's going to do bad in the box office, and like all that shit.
Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're taking a look at a video from Vice called Raised Without Gender. Let's check it out. Yeah, that's not confusing. Hey kid, are you a boy or a girl? No, I'm both. Wait, I'm neither. No, wait again. I'm a puppy dog. Wait, no, I'm Spider-Man. By the way, this kid looks like a girl to me, but I have a strong feeling he's not.
Sweden is the most forward-thinking country in the world when it comes to questioning gender.
I love how these idiots think they're forward-thinking and progressive. Like this is gonna be the future, guys. Sweden is the future. Sweden, where everyone is trans, non-gender binary whack jobs, who are also slowly letting Muslims take over. If Sweden is the future of society, then I don't want to progress. I'd rather go back in time, in fact. Remember the 80s, guys?
Mercedes Carrera, who was an anti-feminist ex-porn star woman. Like, it's something that's drawing and something that's alluring. Like a woman who argues against her own rights, that's a tool that the alt-right can use. Like, it's just like an anti-trans person.
Well, there's way, way, way more money to be made in being alt-right right now.
Oh, yeah. Alex Jones. Alex Jones.
Oh, God.
By the way, Alex
Turns
Jones.
the frogs gay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with Alex Jones, because I have. He's falling. He's falling apart. Like,
but that's what happens
he was
when you
so stable
deplatform these people.
He's had half a dozen successful. He's had half a dozen successful lawsuits against him, which means he's been successfully sued and had money taken from him like half a dozen times now. He's moved his studio to his house. Co-hosts are disappearing. He's starting, like, half his show are ad deals now, and he's just like, I don't know, guys, like, if we don't sell this amount right now, I think InfoWars is going to go away. And he used to do that back, and I could see his showmanship, but this time I can see, like, the sorrow in his eyes, like his company is dying.
Man, that's...
I mean, it's kind of nice to see the sorrow in his eyes, like...
But again,
that's
makes me
great when
tingly.
you deplatform these assholes,
Another one
and
of those
then
spots.
suddenly they can't sell ads and no one's listening to them or watching them, and that's all you got to do is just deplatform them.
It's another one of those spots where if it wasn't for the fact that he's a crazy alt-right person, just like Rush Limbaugh, oh, I could listen to their voices for hours. They have such glorious voices, but they spew such
What they
disgusting
say
rhetoric.
just makes you feel sick to your core.
That's what, like, Ken Hovind, like, okay, from the left, but Ken Hovind is a creationist.
Yeah.
That's really, and I wish he spoke about other issues because he's such a charismatic, likable guy, but he's just spewing like a constant stream of bullshit. So yeah, but I love how he presents. He's a very good presenter. Let's go through dog whistles. So, like Sprout said, dog whistles, when you blow a dog whistle, humans can't hear, but dogs can. In this example, for fascist dog whistles, a fascist blows a whistle and only other fascists see or hear it, depending on if it's verbal or written. So it's something that can make people feel like they're a part of a community. It can strengthen bonds, and it can like remind people that, hey, there's more of us out there than you think. It's a way to like raise morale and raise passion and like cement recruiting within fascist circles. And it's also, as you start to go down the alt-right rabbit hole and start to learn some of these dog whistles, it's also kind of a learning process. When you hear a new one, you want to find out what it is. And it's a way that people are self-educating themselves about fascist talking points. So here are some examples.
Well, like this one.
Yeah.
I do that all the time, and now I can't do it.
Well, yeah. Again,
like even like this.
When you do the okay thing with your fingers,
and
you like, put your thumb and your pointer finger together, and you raise the remaining fingers on your hand up. And
yeah. Oh, Constant Stream of Bullshit is Evie's new punk rock band.
I love it.
Constant Stream of Bullshit sounds like the last time I was at the dairy farm.
But again, like fascists love it when it sounds absurd on its face. Like, okay, the OK symbol that people have been doing their whole lives. Now now they're telling us we can't do it because it's a fascist symbol. Like they want it to sound absurd on its face, but that's really what they've done because that is a W for white and P for power.
Yeah, well,
so it's a white power symbol.
If you put it up like upside down like that, it means.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
The word alt-right to non-fascists, it sounds like, different versions of conservatives. That's just another kind of conservative. To fascists, they know that when somebody says alt-right, when another fascist says alt-right, they really mean white supremacists, racists, fascists. Like those are the people they're talking to. Take back America. To somebody who's not a fascist, they hear, okay, generally improve America. You're not going to improve infrastructure, get jobs back, all that stuff. When fascists hear it, they add the word whom to the end. So take back from whom, which is, of course, Jews, minorities, women, stuff like that. Globalists.
Yep.
People hear global business interests, like these businessmen that fly the globe and connect business, money stuff. When fascists hear it, they hear Jews. They hear Jews control the global market and really are pulling the strings on every little thing. Inner cities, non-fascist, just, poorer areas of the city. When fascists hear it, racial minorities within that city. State rights. Somebody is just like, yeah, the state's having state rights. And when fascists hear it, the state's right to discriminate against people. Traditional values. To a non-fascist, just like, man, woman, 2 dogs, a kid and a picket fence.
Kids.
Yeah, that whole, the American thing. When a fascist hear traditional values, they think like, get those minorities out of here. No more homosexuals, like all that stuff.
No interracial anything.
Yeah.
It has to be your usual, what's the word?
Nuclear family.
Nuclear family, thank you.
Yeah.
With the mom, the dad, they're both white. And
Picket
they're
fence.
2.5 kids and like 2 dogs.
What if I just want half a kid?
Yeah.
Share common values. We want to just live with people that share common values. Non-fascists, they hear, general values like, we should cut our lawns and like we shouldn't let kids break windows and like we should
Clean up your dog's shit if they shit on someone's lawn.
Yeah, when a fascist hear it, they mean like their white, straight, male values. Those values. The values that are on your skin and on your penis.
The good ones.
Yeah. Demographic change. When somebody else hears this, like, like different sorts of people are going up and down. When fascists hear it, they mean less white people, more non-white people.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Bad hombres.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When non-fascists hear it, they just think like, criminals who are Mexican. When fascists hear it, they mean all Latinx people. Yeah. Law and order, non-fascist, good fair policing, fascists.
A wonderful series of TV shows.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, non-fascist, a wonderful series of TV shows. When Reagan says it, or when a fascist hears it, he means police indigenous, black, and Latin communities more harshly. And enact
Evie
things...
wins the Discord.
Yeah.
Bad Hombres is my heavy metal mariachi band.
Yeah.
I also like the previous one in the Discord.
The last time I was at the dairy farm was my new country rock band. The last time I was at the dairy farm, my wife punched me in the ball. No.
And I fucked a cow.
Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
Welfare queen. Somebody welfare queen. A non-fascist here is like somebody who's, been on welfare for a while and doesn't want to find a job. A fascist here's black women.
Yeah.
Tough on crime. Again, good justice, fascist, tough on minorities. War on terror. Non-fascists fighting terrorists, fascists, fear-mongering about anybody who vaguely looks Arab or Muslim.
Mm-hmm. like that meme on Family Guy where they're holding up like the color card where it's like
okay, not okay. Yeah.
It's a major way that politicians are manipulating people into doing something that, if they're fully conscious of it, they wouldn't be morally comfortable with.
A dog whistle. An image or phrase with a hidden meaning only certain people are supposed to pick up on. It's pretty much always linked to race, but like a dog whistle, most people won't hear it.
Antonio Delgado claims he's like us.
Accusations of dog whistle tactics blighted the 2018 US midterm elections. People didn't fail to notice how this Republican advert described Antonio Delgado, a black Rhodes Scholar and Harvard graduate.
Big city rapper Antonio Delgado.
The rapper part was true, and the reason they're repeating it over and over again is they can say that without saying he's black. Big city rapper is meant to conjure up associations of blackness and criminality.
And this is nothing new. Both Republicans and Democrats seem to have a track record of depicting Obama as something of a foreigner, whether talking about his supposed native clothing.
I have no shame or no problem with people looking at Barack Obama in his native clothing.
Or simply pronouncing his full name.
Barack Hussein Obama.
Barack Hussein Obama.
Barack Hussein Obama.
I think it was meant to trigger associations of foreignness, non-whiteness, Muslimness, and association with Saddam Hussein.
So where did this tactic come from?
It used to be, before the civil rights movement in the US, that politicians could appeal quite openly to voters' racism and say, vote for me because I support segregation of the races.
After the civil rights movement, that became unacceptable. So they started using language which was acceptable, but which sent the same message. And there was one political strategist who took dog whistling to an art form.
Lee Atwater was the master of the dog whistle.
Atwater's work supporting Bush's 1988 presidential bid led to an advert so infamous that even today it casts a shadow over the president's legacy.
Willie Horton, who murdered a boy in a robbery, stabbing him 19 times. Despite a life sentence, Horton received 10 weekend passes from prison. Horton fled, kidnapped a young couple, stabbing the man and repeatedly raping his girlfriend. Weekend prison passes. Dukakis on crime.
It's now taken as a paradigm case of dog whistle politics, but at the time, people really fought this idea.
You can perhaps imagine why they did. This was, after all, a true story. So what makes the advert a dog whistle?
Showing his face, of course, because he was very clearly black, but also I think shortening his name from William to Willie to make it sound more stereotypically black. Those things, working together with the crimes that he committed, served to trigger very negative racial attitudes.
So, appearance and action. This is the last little segment. So, Nazis on the subway getting punched are entertaining, but that's not usually the form they take. They know that coming out that overtly usually doesn't have good results. It's kind of like that frog in boiling water. You got to win them over first and then slowly introduce them to the ideas. So most successful Nazis today are sharp, well-dressed, charismatic, and they appear very calm and rational. They want to appear like the more rational and calm person in the conversation. Mm-hmm. They're usually quick talking and good argumentation. They're usually very good speakers. They're not chosen for their expertise. They're chosen for their charisma.
Well, like Richard Spencer's a great speaker.
Oh yeah, wonderful speaker. Yeah, and he's very presentable and very polite, and that's exactly why he does all that.
He looks very clean cut and
They want the face of Nazism to appear meek, polite, personable, likable. That's what they want it to look like, so the ideas are more swallowable.
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 Charisma modifier
Able
plus
to be
4.
throated.
To swallow.
Yes. Yeah, and that's fascism's attempt to legitimize itself, to put itself like in a good light. Their demeanor is usually laid back and personable, and they're usually a person just asking questions, or just for a thought. Why is it so bad that you just want to live in a city with other white people? They're not white nationalists. They're European traditionalists. They're not alt-right. They're classical liberals. They're not for a white ethno-state. They just want a community for other white people. They're not a fascist. They're a national syndicalist. They always hide behind different labels. Like, if you watch debates with Nazis and fascists, it takes such a long time for the person debating them to wear down all their bullshit terms before they admit they're a fascist. They don't want to admit to it because they know on the face it looks bad. It's kind of like being in Scientology. You don't find out about who's the top thing in Scientology.
Tom Cruise.
Oh yes, the god Tom Cruise.
Xenu.
Yeah, Xenu. That's the yeah. You don't find out.
It was like Miscavige.
You don't find out about Xenu until you've been properly and rightly indoctrinated. Same with the alt-right. You don't find out that these guys are a bunch of genocide, pro-genocide, anti-progressive right bigots until you get really deep.
No, because we all knew that. Like, if you're like, you don't need to like spend thousands of dollars to know that people in the alt-right are generally pretty racist. Or
George Carlin did an interesting piece about using soft language to lessen blows of things. Like, I can't think of any good examples right now.
The one he uses specifically was shell shock.
Yeah, shell shock. Yes,
yeah. Battle fatigue, and then it was post-traumatic stress disorder, which is, arguably more correct, but doesn't have that same impact.
It's softer. Shell shocked. It's such a harsh word, and having studied linguistics, we look at the way language is evolving and changing all the time, and it's very interesting to see pejorative versus things becoming more positive.
So, how does the left win?
Gritty memes.
Yeah,
lots of fucking gritty memes.
And
Go
Jeb.
to the Philadelphia Flyers and just fucking have at her. Support the Flyers, support Gritty. He is the Antifa symbol that we all need and love, and it's great. He recently sent out a invitation to a bunch of people, kind of downplaying the 40-hour work week. So I'm like, he is now formally, canon has indicated that he is against the 40-hour work week. And in November, they're having a labor union day. So you can go watch the Flyers play, because, if you're a labor unionist. So yeah, that's like totally fucking awesome now. You got to kind of lean into that and push that. I think one of the city council members of Philadelphia passed some motion, decreeing Gritty as like, the symbol the city needs. And, and they refer to him as like a non-binary, creature. And it was so great, this motion. And then I think it passed. So I'm like, well, now that's canon too.
I know that on its face, people are tired of hearing about the woes of, cis white men. But the reality is, the right is co-opting so many of them. And every one that the left doesn't capture the attention of, and the left doesn't educate, and the left doesn't make aware and become politically active, they just fall into that alt-right rabbit hole. And like, these angry young men are fed upon by communities. We talked about them before. They're fed on incel communities. Incel communities are very right-leaning if you go on the forums, the message board. Pickup artist communities. All those different, like...
People who hate women are generally pretty right-leaning.
It's very much to do with toxic masculinity.
Yeah. There's an episode coming on
with
that.
The heteronormative white cis het, exactly, men who, being anything to do with feminine is seen as bad. Like, if you cry, it's bad. If you show emotion, that's bad because you don't want to be compared to a woman. That's bad.
that's where the demographic difference, and that's not a dog whistle, I'm actually talking about that. Like, that's where the difference comes in. That's why the right is gaining so many. It's mostly angry, young, white men that are being co-opted to that side. And I think step one to the left winning is class consciousness. So that's part of why we do the podcast, is we try and make people aware of what's going on and, like, aware of some of the things in this world you might not be aware of. Like,
and also to talk about serial killers.
Oh, yeah. And those are important things to talk about, too. Like, the extremes of human behavior and, like, what humanity is both capable of in their most terrifying moments and their highest highs. But
cults.
Class consciousness is important because people won't take action if they don't know there's a problem. So educating people is a good step to that. And I hope this episode does that. I hope after hearing this, people look at the media they consume a little differently. Like, if somebody makes an edgy joke, are they making it because they're trying to be funny, or are they doing it because they have, like, a ulterior plan in mind?
Leon's dick.
We do talk about that a lot.
We do talk a lot about Leon's dick, yes.
I've seen his dick so many times.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things you hear a lot about. It's like, I kind of want to see it.
Oh, there's lots of pictures. Just go on Twitter and just follow back enough and you'll see it. There's lots.
Just go through his
don't
media.
worry about it. Yeah, it's all there.
Talk About Serial Killers is the first album of Bad Hombres.
And Leon's dick is the first track.
Leon's dick has got it going.
Would it be Leon Schlong?
But it would be like,
got it going on.
You'd have some screamo in the background. like,
I mean,
other awesome symbols to keep in mind would be the Iron Front symbol. While it was traditionally a centrist symbol, has been co-opted by the left to mean opposition to fascism. So that's the three arrows kind of pointing down.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that one for a while. You sent me that, and I was like, I'm not sure if that's.
I mean, originally it was like anti-communism, anti-fascism symbol, but like when you co-opt it, you know, it's kind of like how the swastika used to be like a symbol of peace in a lot of religions, and now it stands for like hate and white supremacy. You know, that the Iron Front symbol with the three arrows has been co-opted to just generally mean anti-fascism now, as opposed to the anti-communist ideas that it was originally representing.
Just to cap this off, you know, once that I was an angry young man. Like those who've listened to Ood's story and those who've listened to the Pickup Artist episodes, like, you know that's my history. I used to be a right-leaning, woman-hating, like, transphobic, angry young man that was like learning how to manipulate women through pickup artist bullshit. And I had some very patient and very kind feminist and progressive friends that eventually slowly like pulled me out of that space. And, you know, I learned a lot, and now I'm trying to put the message out to save, you know, other people that were as ignorant as I am. Like, we can win this war because climate change isn't slowing down. And when the oceans start to flood the shores, we're going to have an immigrant crisis like no other. And if we don't want another genocide in our hands in that time, we have to win the war on this. It's not going to look bright for people you care about, trans people, minorities, if we don't win the thought war. It's just going to keep on going farther right. And we don't want that to happen. I know we're just doing memes and silly jokes and comics, but in the end, it's important because
we have to allow those people the safe space to exist, to love, to be who they are. They're not doing harm to anybody. They're just trying to be who they are. And there are people who are trying to block that progress.
Yep. Egalitarianism. We got to have rights for everybody, or it's not proper. Alrighty. I'm excited to see
that startled me.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all the fuckery and emails we're going to get about this one. So bring it on. ovfeedback@gmail.com.
Or all of us on Twitter.
Yes. We just want to live and go pee and marry, and then there's shitheads out there. EVJ. I've been Ood Gallifrey.
Sageberry.
Richard Bigley.
Squishy.
Arthur
Sprouts
Tallis.
in the washroom.
Yes. Sprouts having a sprout, and I'm Arthur Tallis.
Yes. See you next time. Love you all. She had to pee. You gotta go.
Love you, bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay. Something a bit happier than last time to play us out. This is the Nazi punching song by the band Megathruster. You can find more of their stuff at megathruster.bandcamp.com. Have a wonderful night and see you in the after show.
July 1944. This is the continent of Europe which is to be liberated from the Nazis.
My grandfather fought in World War II, dropping bombs far across the sea. And when I was young, one day he called me over and sat me upon his knee. And he told me tales of courage and what it means to be free. And when he was done, he looked me straight in the eyes, and this is what he said to me. Grandson, you haven't lived till you punched a Nazi right in the face. Grandson, you haven't lived till you put a fascist right in his place. For you, there never may come a time, 'cause we kick their sorry behinds. Grandson, you haven't lived till you punched a Nazi right in the face. La 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 la. My grandmother taught Morse code to the soldiers while they were being trained. And she told me stories of how many men she would never see again. And the ones who made it back saw horrors they couldn't unsee. But there was absolutely one thing upon which they all could agree. Grandson, you haven't lived till you punched a Nazi right in the face. Grandson, you haven't lived till you put a fascist right in his place. For you, there never may come a time, 'cause we kick their sorry behinds. Grandson, you haven't lived till you punched a Nazi right in the face. La 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 la. And now they're both gone, and I miss them so, even though it might be for the best. 'Cause the lessons they taught must have been forgotten, and we might have all failed the test. It looks like the Nazis didn't go away, and neither did their sick views. And I can hear my grandparents like it was yesterday every time I turn on the news. Grandson, you haven't lived till you punched a Nazi right in the face. Grandson, you haven't lived till you put a fascist right in his place. For you, there never may come a time, because we kick their sorry behinds. Grandson, you haven't lived till you punched a Nazi right in the face. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Hey, Ood here with the after show. It's going to be short and sweet this week. Just wanted to shout out all the people that have been donating on the Mikes for Bigley campaign. Those of you that don't know what happened, we lost our old studio. Sage Murray, the person who hosts the place where we record our podcast, her basement was flooded, and a lot of our stuff was affected in that. We had to relocate and put together kind of a ramshackle recording setup, and we're kind of rebuilding and remodeling and trying to get back what we had before, and we're using this fundraiser to do exactly that. So from Mr. Blakely, the Rye Strad, Anonymous, Alexander Brown, and Oliver Tallis, thank you for your donations on the GoFundMe. For anybody else that would like to donate, it is www.gofundme.com/f/Mikes-4-BIGLY. Mikes for Bigley. Yeah, and we want to keep this train running, and we are fan supported. We have no bosses, no masters, no people signing off at the end of the day. We belong to the people who contribute to us, who keep us running, and if you donate, that includes you. So thank you very much ahead of time just for listening. And on that note, the genital cosplay contest, where we got our lovely fans to send in pictures of their junk dressed up. This is the second annual competition. We had 6 lovely entries this year, and we don't want to judge them until we can get all back together to record. So when the basement is done being repaired and renovated and we have our studio up and going again, then we can review those dicks, vaginas, boobs together and decide whose genitals were cosplayed the best in 2019. Anyways, I've been Ood Gallifrey. That's enough blabbing from me. I fucking love you guys. You're all beautiful little cherubs, and I hope that you have happy, prosperous lives. Walk like a penguin so you don't slip on the ice.